You need to apologize for what you did, Josh.
I'm sorry I allowed Cody to be host. I don't know what he was doing on the keyboard, but
sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. If this is any indication of what you can expect from the Oasis, you're in for a rude awakening, and I would do everything you can to stay away from that group. I'm just throwing that out there. But did he freeze again? Oh no, that's just his old. That's just his old man look, right? His old man look. So I know I don't want to talk about this for much longer, just because we got an entire podcast to fill, and sometimes the listeners don't even know what we're talking about when you're talking about the Oasis, and not everyone circulates around Cody's drama.
But it's also okay. I just want to clear it up, though. It's just,
oh my gosh,
it's just the same timing of something like that happening. But this page has been in the works for a bit now, and
thank you.
There's zero drama associated with it.
But I wouldn't say there's zero drama associated with it, because there's a lot of drama circulating it.
Well, yes.
Why are we talking about this? Nobody cares about this. Nobody.
Because
nobody cares.
Paige brought it up.
Of course.
So, I just wanted, it's all love. I think it's a good compliment to everything else.
Is it all love? I feel like it's not all love.
From my side, the person who made it, 100% all love. I want somewhere that's going to be all love, and I'm going to build it. It's going to be great.
No, see, I'm just impartial, and I like to stir the pot.
Yeah, you do, sir. You blame me, but you do. You are the problem. You are the problem.
I brought the problem. No, I am trying to give voice to both sides and create a place where we can be transparent and move forward in the right direction.
We always have beards. Someone just said y'all coordinate the beards. We always have beards.
Yeah,
beards and hats. That's our thing.
That's our thing.
Come on now.
That's Jammers in the Rough. Bam.
Beards and hats.
Why don't we have our own hats made?
We should. Maybe I'll do a Finley run of Jammers in the Rough hats.
Ooh, and a stamp.
If they do, they have to go out to like 8 people, 6 people.
What?
We can. Well, there's 3 of us right here. That's 3
people.
Hats. We got. Jerry will buy a hat. Jerry, you want a hat?
We do a run of 30 hats. We have our team.
Harlan will buy a hat.
That's what we should do.
Jerry, that's right. This is facts. So Jerry isn't just someone.
Yeah, Jerry isn't just someone. They are the one.
For an omnipresent being. It is I.
Jerry. It is I, Jerry Ann. But this would be a good time to also check in around Team Jammers in the Rough. We are like 6 months into this venture, and
we haven't done a dang thing.
You haven't done a dang thing. My people are taken care of. Dallas gets fed every single month because
on Thursday nights when you leave.
I'm even.
Yeah. We definitely there's reaching out to everyone who we want to support, that we supported through Jammers in the Rough, trying to help them out any way we can. We always ask, if you're listening, if you are on that team and you need something, hit us up. But we did talk about doing before the end of the year, having some clothing and merch done, which it's
just going to be our faces on the shirt.
No, it's just Cody. Just like sleeping, it just says the worst. It says Jammers.
No, wait, is it the one where Paige has on my disc that you lost of just me?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one.
It's sensual.
Well, I just wanted to, like I said, now that we have a team of our own, to see how that's going, and they should be listening in. I know Colin.
If they don't, we kick you off the team. Dallas, show up.
Show up, Dallas. You know what? I really want to talk about what happened over at the
European Open. I think too many people are talking about Barella. Not enough people are talking about that Ellis clutch gene. You just watched a guy taking Snowman and take himself out of that tournament. And what does Ellis do? He laid it up the day before. He says, I'm not laying this up. This world title is mine, and freaking parks it for birdie. Then he follows up on 17 with a late flip to make everybody worry.
I was scared.
Park job, which that back-to-back was ridiculous to watch. On top of 18 throwing the layup play, looking like he's about to stall out, then another late flip for par. Like, talk about Clutch Gene, because Kyle Klein lost by 1. Kyle Klein was just begging him to make a mistake, and not only did he not make a mistake, but he pulled Heimberg LVC style of just pump on that gas and finish strong. I absolutely love that. I know we're going to talk about Barella because everybody's talking about Barella, but I wanted to start by saying Ellis definitely stepped up in a big way to win that.
No, that's a great way to look at it though, because he did. Especially after he's had so many close ones.
Wasn't it last year, Josh? That last year, he you see him in the locker room, just shaking his head. Wasn't that last year?
Yeah, that was last year.
Last year, not the European Open.
No. But what's the one where whole 18 you have to shoot?
It's that little stone wall you got to get around. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was that one, because then you see him he just missed it, he almost had it in his hands and then missed it, and then you see him in the locker room it's demoralizing.
That was Ledgestone,
I get it,
right?
No, that's not Ledgestone.
It's not Ledgestone.
I don't know.
But he went out of bounds on his first upshot.
Toboggan. Because that toboggan, right? It was hole 1 where he throws his buzz on that turnover and it stalls out and it goes long.
Yeah, and then he went OB left, I think, right?
That was toboggan.
Yeah, that's what it is. And then 18's that iconic hole where everyone's watching and it has to go around. There's a building there. Yeah.
MVP Open? What?
He did have a close. He did have but we're not talking about old shit. We're talking about new shit. We're talking about a major winner, a new major winner, first time major winner, which is exciting. Also, the struggles of Heimberg converting in majors being a very real factor at this point. Does he have major yips? What do you guys take on Heimberg?
I mean, it's hard. He's actually showing more motion now, though.
Yeah,
in previous years,
which I think to me showing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just showing that he's evolving as a player. He has feelings now.
I don't know. That's what I was gonna say. Evolving or devolving, because he's going from cyborg to human, and letting those frustrations. That's the only reason why I think about the yips, right? It's an emotional reaction. Getting away from what made him, which is a strong mental game, which is, consistency, which is not choking leads away, always battling back. Don't get me wrong. He was a strong deficit. I think he was 16th or 18th day 1, and he battled back to be another top 5 finish, which he's good at, but he's continuing to fail, in these major situations, are failing to convert, and him being emotional, I think, is a reflection of that it is this now emotional wall, this yip, this pressure, this the whole world, because even the hype leading up to it, right? Heimberg, will he finally chase down this major win? And it puts all of this extra pressure on it, and he has to be aware of that, and because he's showing this emotional side. And I think it's a devolve. I think it's from cyborg to human, and the moment you're a human, you're vulnerable, and those vulnerabilities show uncharacteristically, right? He's putting not I think he's one of the top 3 putters right now in the Pro Tour, but in the majors you see him start to struggle in a lot of regards, and so
it's more mental at this point. You're thinking
I think he has
the raw talent, but his mental game is not there.
I don't think he has I wouldn't even say this raw talent. I think he is, if it is in a vacuum, he is the person to beat, period, in these situations, especially without Gannon Burr being there. That should have been Heimberg's major win, period. So if that wasn't the case, then I think it's more emotional. I don't think it's a skill issue. I think it is a mental block at this point that, we all face in disc golf. How do you overcome? Yeah, how do you overcome?
I mean, he is always I almost feel like he's always in the top 5, always there, but he's never that top 1.
He's won 4 4 or 5, or we did this last time.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's not Tatar. Okay, Tatar is just beating everyone left and right. Whoever picked her on their fantasy team's a genius. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think he's the closest thing, to the most dominant MPO right now.
But is it every week he's do you know at every tournament he's gonna come? I can 95% say if Kristen Tatar's at a tournament, she's probably gonna win it.
Yeah,
Heimberg, I can't say that.
I think MPO success looks differently, right? Like
it's also a lot more.
You
cluttered.
can't, because the field is so deep. You can have a first major winner and Corey Ellis, and enough people being like, about time. Nobody's taking it away from him. Nobody's trying to belittle what he did. They're all excited to see that because the depth of the competition. I think we have an emergence of Paul Macbeth, Ricky, a la Gannon and Heimberg at this point. Paul was very dominant when it came to majors, but a little bit weaker when it came to Pro Tour wins and Pro Tour points. Ricky was very dominant in Pro Tour wins and Pro Tour points, but a little bit weak in the major wins. And I think Gannon Burr is showing that similar cutthroatness when it comes to majors and showing up for majors. And I think he's going to show that trajectory, while Heimberg's going to continue to dominate regular season games and struggle in those majors. And I think we see that in sports all along, right? Green Bay Packers, they won one Super Bowl, but how long were they the favorites, right? Coming into however many years.
Ricky Wysocki is like Ken Griffey Jr. When he is fully healthy, he is dominant. But Ken Griffey Jr. was plagued by injuries his whole career that kept him from being that superstar. I mean, he's still one of my favorite players of all time.
But that's like where I feel like you have an outside factor in injuries, and that's what gets blamed. Heimberg doesn't have that. Heimberg isn't plagued.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know what Heimberg's thing is. I was saying Ricky, I feel like he has got that Lyme disease box around him, where if he's healthy and doesn't have any flare-ups, good luck stopping him. But it's always like, well, my wrists act up, my stuff, and which is terrible because he's such a good player. And Heimberg, I feel like he never gets injured. I feel like he just, like you said, the yips, it's just this mental thing that's keeping him from going from that really good player, top 5 all the time, to that amazing player who is the one to beat every time.
Because I still think he's very much the number 1 MPO player right now.
Oh, I agree with you.
But when it comes to majors, it's a different game. I mean, Proctor stepped up in a big way at European Open and is continuing that trajectory, right? Like Heimberg slowly transitioning to be a less winning version of Heimberg, which is what I like to see, right? He's constantly top 10ing. He's constantly put himself in this thing, no matter what tournament it is. And that's just now a matter of time to Heimberg wins one, right?
Now think about it this way. Do you think it's easier for someone like Proctor, who is not expected to win, or even Corey Ellis, who are both very good players? They probably don't have the pressure. They can play looser. They can play better, where people are expecting Heimberg, like, hey, man, when's he going to finally win one? And maybe that is that mental pressure that's bringing him down. Because I feel like it's a lot easier if people don't expect much out of you to just come out of nowhere and like, hey, I'm a pretty good player.
That's why I think
he's probably like playing tense and playing tight. I don't know.
And I think we've been on our podcast a lot talking about that, right? The mental pressures and the pressure we put on ourselves. And I think you're absolutely right that there is a little bit less pressure on him, but the pressure looks differently, right? Like Proctor, he's not worrying about his first major win. He's worrying about, how can I show up on final day and close this out? I'm so close, and those pressures getting there. So he's doing what he needs to do to get there. And then he's falling victim to some of that pressure as well, because that's a different gear that you have to shift into, right? You get 4th gear going in, but you got to tap into that 5th gear in order to get to that next leg. And he's falling pressure to that. And always, the least expectations you have going into something, the better you're going to do. The more expectations you have, it's a very rare individual that could rise to meet those expectations, if not exceed them. And we're seeing that, right? Like right now, Proctor came into the season. I think it's really his first full tour that he's doing. And not that he hasn't been on tour, but it's his first full year touring, doing the full leg of the tour. And so he came in with some of those little bit lower expectations than what he's obviously achieving. And now that he's achieving, I'm really curious about how he's going to follow up next year. If it's going to be on that same level and continue to push, or is he going to do like a Joel Freeman, have a breakout year? Everyone, is seeing how successful he is, and then falls back off a year or two later.
I mean, I feel like Proctor is going to stick with it. I don't think it's going to turn another Joel Freeman situation. Because Proctor has been doing really well on the West Coast for a long time, and like you're saying, this is his first year touring the rest of the United States, and Europe, and he's showing great talent, and he's good under pressure. And then I feel like once one slip up happens, that's when he gets in his head. At least from like an outside perspective, I don't know what's going on in his head, but it seems like after the first mess up that happens, it starts to go a little bit downhill. But it's new courses to him. I mean, it could be new in tournament play, new tournaments to play, new people to be around. I mean, that's a lot of pressure on a human. And he gets this year out of the way. Next year, I think he's going to come back super strong. And plus, there's still a lot of season left. He can.
No, I hope so. And I think he's going to have an amazing year. It's just hard to follow up his success this year, because if he's going to follow up this year in a big way, he needs to convert to like 1 or 2 wins in order to follow up this year, because of how consistent he's been. He's a top 10 level pro right now, and to be honest, argumentatively, probably top 5 in a lot of regards, depending on what you're measuring. And it's just hard all I'm saying is it's hard to follow that up when you have the expectations, right? That's what we're talking about, is what do these expectations look like? Same thing with Barilla. Barilla's been so close this year a couple of times, but he's more volatile than Proctor. Proctor's consistent, right? He's sitting within these wavelengths, consistently converting, where Barilla is more volatile, where it's like, oh, I'm in the win, and you don't hear from me. I'm in the win, you don't hear from me. And he's been, through that. And, some people thrive in that, right? Like, I'm somebody that's the same way.
Leave again?
Josh is being Josh, but I'm somebody that's like, I would rather have one amazing round or amazing tournament and like struggle a little bit, and then an amazing tournament and then struggle a little bit, than always being like, always a bridesmaid kind of aspect. But I don't know. I think it's interesting pacing. It's interesting conversations for next year. I think Barella, we're all waiting for him to convert, but there's a couple pros that we're still waiting to convert that were just as exciting and hype when they were doing it, and they still haven't delivered in a big way, right? Like Drew Gibson, not only is a mentor to Barella, but he pops to mind about like, all right, LVC, you won. Everyone's waiting for you to follow it up. Nothing. Oh, you won Portland Open. Everyone's waiting you to follow it up. Nothing. You're more, it's exciting when we see you throw, but you're not converting in big ways. And Barella, I think, I've been wanting him to break out of that, and he has, don't get me wrong. But I'm still waiting for that, just kind of see, because 3 holes to go, his tournament, and Raptor zone.
Wasn't Macbeth on his like bag too?
Yep.
Why didn't Macbeth be like, yo, man, do something different? It's not working.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you can't blame it on the caddy. I mean, I personally feel like Barella would have done better if he didn't have Paul as a caddy. I mean, I could see that possibly being a distraction for him.
I don't think so. I don't think, like I said, I don't think we blame the caddy. I think Paul being on his bag probably cost and saved him. Probably saved him more strokes than it cost him. When you're a caddy, and this is like my experience being caddy, right? I'll use Dallas Garber at NUI. And so I was caddying for him, and there's this death putt, super steep slope, 40 feet away on a cliff. You miss, you're probably going to instant bogey because you're going to sail down that cliff. And Dallas comes up to me and he's like, Paige, do I run this? And as a caddy, what do I say? Absolutely not. We talked about this. Lay it up. We've talked about this next level. We see pros because we're watching. What was the Open in Europe before this one with the hammer?
TCP.
Yeah, whatever that is. PCP. Like, we're watching that tournament and we're like, hey, look, these are pros that are on cliffs laying it up. If they're laying it up, so I'm reminding him of this. But he needed to hear that, because then he's a 15-year-old boy that was like, all right, I'm going to run it. Boom, runs it, hits basket, sits, takes his par. But on the next hole, hits an 80-footer on a cliff for birdie. And that helps him battle back. And so I think as that caddy, my point being is you can give your opinion, but you're going to support what the player decides, and then you're going to back away, right? Dallas running it, I'm not doubting him. I'm not like, oh, no, Dallas, listen to me, lay it up. You say your opinion, let him decide, you back up, and you're there to support him regardless of. I think Paul Macbeth was that same way of being like, here's what I think you do, do this, maybe go your Raptor. Like, we don't know what's being said, right? Like, leave it a little bit long so you don't live as short or whatever. The nerves, the major wind, the pressure, all of that gave him that extra 10% power that sailed it, and Paul Macbeth is there to support him, there to keep him in it. But at the end of the day, Barilla has to make the throw. And Paul Macbeth, unfortunately, can't make that throw for him.
Okay.
I mean, that's a very good take. I agree with pretty much everything you said.
Don't backpedal now, Josh. Don't backpedal now.
Heard it here, guys. Jammers in the Rough is just about being right all the fucking time.
Hold on a second. I said.
There you go. Good job. That's smart.
That Paul was not the reason, but I can see how it could be a little bit more difficult with Paul. And then Paige says his points. I agree with them. Actually, you know what? You made some good points. I can admit when I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong.
You never know when you're wrong. Look at the pages you start and cause drama.
Just drop it. It's going to be an amazing thing.
And I also think, like, I think most people will fall to the pressure of Paul Macbeth on the bag. I think Barella, being that, kid that is caddied for Paul, them growing up together, him having that mentoring role, I don't think that is as much pressure as maybe if it would be like Aaron Gossage with Macbeth on the bag, just because they've known each other for 10 plus years at this point and have caddied for each other probably multiple times. I don't think that was as much pressure as maybe you want to make, or people want to make it out to be.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Barella still follows suit. Like, I feel bad for the kid. Like, this is just what happens with him. He gets so close and then just drops it. Right. He's been on lead card for final round how many times, and then has let it slip away. Like, it sucks, and I'm hoping that pretty soon in the nearish future, hopefully this year, he does get a win. He needs it. He needs it for morale as a human being. How many times he's been that close to getting that first place?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see too. Though that's going to be the nature of this game. I think it used to be his putting was what you blamed for Barilla, like not winning, but his putting has increased, and his circle 2 putting has increased tremendously. And it's something that needs to click for him. No different than Heiberg, no different than a lot of these top level pros. And hopefully he'll get there.
So, thoughts on Paige Pierce?
Did she break her leg?
I think she broke her leg.
Yeah, and then
I think she's washed.
Whoa!
No, I'm kidding.
Hot takes.
Let's see. I love that she is still bringing content even in a cast. What would you do if you broke your foot mid-season?
Amputate it. Cut it off. Keep pushing.
It's got to go.
Grind, baby.
Honestly, I mean, I love that they're bringing content. I love that they're continuing to utilize the platform to, advocate for whatever they feel like they need to advocate for. I think that's always great, but, this is their livelihood at this point. Like, they broke their leg. I'm not sure what insurance is like as a professional disc golfer, but I'm pretty sure it's probably not as good as it could be. And them having to create content and continue to involve the community, at the end of the day, like, it is their job. They have to sell discs. Ledgestone's coming up. They need to get the pay bump from, all the fiercest selling. So that's
Ledgestone's not the same anymore. Can we just get that off the table?
That's
Ledgestone disc or
that's just my cynical side. But I love to see Paige Pierce just continue to be a part of it, right? They've been more reserved and removed as of late this last couple of years. Their mental health struggles being very adamant, and now they start to finally get on the other side of mental health, and then what happens? This bridge happens, and they break their ankle or the leg, and that's derailing. So for me, I don't know how you would recover from that mentally when you just maybe get that, because it's just a pitfall waiting to trap you in. Like, when I broke my leg, I sat on that couch for a month, and there was only so much TV I could watch. There's only so much that I could do on that couch before I just wanted to, get moving, but I couldn't get moving, so I had to figure out different outlets. So them creating content, I hope they're continuing to get their mental health support. They're hoping to get the communication with their community, and they're staying the hell off of like Reddit and other social media outlets that maybe are looking to bash them. But
how'd she break her leg anyways?
I think it was like the wet bridge, right? It was just a little bit slick because the next day it was at the PCS Open, like the practice round, I think, and they didn't have like the turf over it. So like literally the next day they ended up putting turf for extra grass or grip on it.
Sue them. Sue everybody. What's our next conversation? Talk about Josh.
That was my take. You guys have takes.
I'm talking about Josh laying in his bed, really contemplating life right now. Look at him. He's on mute. You're muted, Josh. Josh, you're muted.
Josh.
This is not my bed.
Gosh, why aren't you our tech guy?
Yeah, and I'm having technical difficulties, bruh.
Bruh. Listen, bruh.
Yeah, we all know what Josh did on the couch. We won't.
Josh,
we don't want to talk about it.
Here's the thing with Paige. I think Paige. Well, I wouldn't say she's in her twilight, but she's not dominant anymore. I don't want to think about what Josh did on his couch by himself, or what Paige did for months on a couch.
Paige isn't dominant because they have a broken leg and they can't play.
But I'm saying even last year, was she dominant like she once was?
I think so. I think
she won.
I mean, she's won. I think.
But do you think she's going to come back and be dominant again, or no?
No, I think they're going to be like Katrina Allen and win a couple, and kind of just lose to Tatar. And I think that's fine. Right. That's a different day and age. No, because like there's still dominance. Like, what is dominant? Winning two FPO tournaments is still dominating, because there's a lot of FPO that are lying in wake that can't even win one. I think anything more than like same thing with MPO, right? What's dominant? Like people are trying to discredit Heimberg, but it's like
discredited him earlier.
I said he had the yips, and I think that's very accurate statement.
Yeah, that's just you discrediting him, Paige.
Mm-hmm.
You.
But what's dominant? I think Proctor's having a dominant season. I think Macbeth is having a good season. I don't know. It's just like how you measure.
What about Tatar, though? She's having
Tatar
a fantastic
season. What's above dominant, right? What is just
Tatar? She just has it's now a verb. She's Tatared it.
Tatar's making everybody look amateurish.
Making it look easy.
Yeah, I mean I like watching tournaments that are more close going into final round.
I like the hand, Josh, more close, that are closer together. Closer. Watch my hands, not this.
And she is just a whole nother person who dominates that FPO field. And there's times where she's not first, but lately going into like the last round and her being up by 12 strokes, that's intense.
But that's where it's like I think the MPO is reaching the golden age of disc golf, and I think FPO is still very much in the silver age, if not bronze age.
Iron.
Because I think Paige Pierce, we all thought Paige Pierce was on par with Paul Macbeth as his GOAT, ushering this new era, but then Tatar shows up and shows that there's this whole other level that you have to play at in order to be competitive in FPO. And so I'm curious to see when people can start to compete with Tatar, what FPO is going to look like. And it's exciting. I get excited about that because, if you have 5 Tatars out there battling it out, that's going to be exciting. Just like with MPO, where you have, 5 Macbeth level athletes out there, if not 10 out there competing on a regular basis. Go ahead. I'm just... You guys are getting distracted by chat.
What did I do? I didn't do it. What am I getting in trouble for? I was sitting here, Josh, just giggling on his daybed.
All right.
On my daybed. I'm sorry, Paige.
What were we going to talk about? What was the other thing we were going to talk about?
What we're going to talk about is transitioning to closing thoughts, because we got to get Cody out of here by 7.
Okay. So, no. My wife does have surgery tomorrow morning, 2 hours away, very early. So, and in Maryland, it's almost 10 o'clock, and we got to get up at 6 maybe earlier. So it just depends on when the surgery center can take her. So I'm trying to put my family first, y'all. Don't even be like that. I told you this, like I gave you a warning page, kind of like how you said we're gonna hit tonight hard. We're gonna go at it hard, and then
I've been hard this entire time.
We've just been trying to get. Actually, your hot takes have been pretty hard, not soft, not K1 soft. They've been K3 firm.
Yep.
For all those cast of folks out there,
always.
I've been brigalicious. But yeah, so let's transition to closing thoughts. Cody, what are your closing thoughts?
It's not my fault. That's all I'm gonna say. It's not my fault. It's Josh's fault.
Cody's take is a lie. So, Josh, what is your closing thoughts?
Well, it's never a good idea to trade plastic for Wi-Fi routers from Cody Waldron. I'm gonna something. I don't know.
You're the tech guy. My Wi-Fi never goes out. I have an Orbi mesh system, and it works fantastic.
I went to go reset it, and all it came out was like jelly. I don't know what you used it for, but now I just have
like what kind of jelly?
system.
Are we talking like personal or like grape?
KY?
Grape petroleum.
They make flavored now?
Yeah.
Hot dang! Sign me up.
Sign me up. You know what? Just love each other. Just love each other. That's all I'm gonna say. My final thought after
elevate each other. Just elevate yourself.
Break down because of Cody. Cody ruined my Wi-Fi, and I'm being blamed for it.
See, I'm somehow being blamed for the technical difficulties on the other side of the continent right now.
You traded a Wi-Fi access point for 2 discs and a lollipop.
I don't use an access point because that's ghetto, bro. Use a mesh system. You're a grown man that has Wi-Fi. Act like it. Goodness gracious. Access points and repeaters. Grow up.
So that's Josh's wonderful closing thoughts.
What was it? I don't even remember what it was.
Mine
it's continent, brother. That's science, geography.
Mine is a little bit simpler. Don't be afraid to take risks, but more importantly, don't be afraid of criticism. Make sure you're approaching things in the best way that you can, which I always think is unbiasedly, and taking some of those, personal opinions that are there and making sure that what you're doing is, intentional. I can say that as vaguely as I want, but really just, get out there and do your thing. So
expand on it a little bit.
No, I'm going to be vague.
No, I don't like this vague stuff.
I'm just saying, don't be afraid to take chances. If you want to go turn over. If you want to burn the bridge between you and your team, burn the bridge between you and your team.
If you want to pull a Josh.
Hey, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying do it with
Paige
the right.
Blame too.
I'm just
burn
saying,
it all down.
Do it with the right intentions, because if you do it with the right intentions, the rest is going to follow suit. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, that's where things are going to implode. And make sure you're flexible and open to criticism.
Did we even talk about disc golf tonight, or just
absolutely
blowing bridges up? Did we?
I mean, yeah. About it. TSA Oasis is about disc golf.
And then Josh getting kicked out for 15 minutes.
Cody, you had your closing thoughts already. I'm trying to wrap this up. I'm trying to wrap this up for you. I'm doing this for you, Cody, so you get the hell out of here.
You got to keep me on point, guys. I just go off on tangents. I'm just.
Yeah.
So with like that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Jammers in the Rough on CH Sports. Hit that like and follow for CH Sports. Without them, we wouldn't be here. But also without Black Vinyl Discs, we would not be here. That is this week's sponsor, BVD. He's back. He's dying.
He's dying.
He's dying. This. I didn't figure out.
Oh my gosh! Did this happen to him before? Like Mike Kemp died. We're like, oh my gosh!
Hit him up. He's also doing the shop. He's selling his discs, so hit him up if you need
the disc that he dies with colors. He's not dead. Mike Kemp is very much alive.
So with that, keep jamming it in the Oasis. We'll see you next week, guys.